I see everyone is joining in. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you could join us for today's webinar, AI in Supply Chain, Hype versus Reality. I'm Jigar Kanjani, your host for today, and on behalf of Supply Chain Canada West, I want to thank you for being here. I see everyone still joining in. Now, before we begin with the session today, I would like to quickly share a quick message from someone many of you know, Alan Toe, President and CEO of Supply Chain Canada West. His message ties in perfectly with our theme today, reminding us that amidst all the change and disruption, it's our collaboration, curiosity, and community that gives us an edge in navigating complexity. Ian, let's roll the video.
The rate of change that we're seeing today has never been this quick. We're going to continue to see change happening all around us, whether it's through the increased frequency of trade disruption, geopolitical risks, or even the impact of technology and artificial intelligence. This is all the reason why building communities, having all those connections, and working and leveraging and building off of these relationships that we have with one another is going to be able to help us through these turbulent times. A vibrant supply chain community allows supply chain professionals to really build off of the relationship we have with one another for support, for best practices, to learn from one another, and to share ideas. The recent experience with the tariffs, for instance, amazing effort by all those to come together to talk about what are you doing in your organization? What am I doing in my organization? How are we gonna deal with this? How do we change and move our supply chains around so that we can address these trade disruption risks and issues? That's the power of that community to be able to engage.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Ian. And thank you, Alan. That message really captures the moment we are in. I see everyone has settled in well. Hello and welcome everyone again. I'm so glad you could join us for today's webinar, AI in Supply Chain, Hype versus Reality. Again, I am Jigar Kanjani, your host for today, and on behalf of Supply Chain Canada West, I want to thank you for being here. Yes, AI and automation, trade shifts, labor gaps, they are all real. But what makes the difference is how we respond. And that's exactly what today is all about. Getting beyond the buzzwords and finding out what works. Today's session is all about cutting through the noise and getting real about what AI can actually do in supply chain today, right now. Whether you are in planning, procurement, logistics, or operations, this session is designed to give you tangible takeaways you can apply immediately. Before we jump in, just a quick few housekeeping notes so that you could make the most out of today's session. Today's session is being recorded. The recording and the slide deck will be emailed to all the registrants after the webinar, so no need to take notes unless you would want to. Alberta members will automatically receive their CPD credits on their Supply Chain Canada portal. Members from other provinces, please add them manually to your Supply Chain Canada account. And everyone is in listen-only mode to avoid background noise. But don't worry, we have a Q&A session at the end, so feel free to send your questions anytime using the Q&A button below on your Zoom window. Now, let's get started. If you have been a part of our Excel Master Workshop, you already know today's speaker well. He's been with us the longest, and for good reason. He breaks down complex topics in a way that's approachable and practical. And that's what we exactly need when it comes to technology. Please welcome Ian Gonzalez, a supply chain AI practitioner who has led real-world pilots in forecasting, inventory optimization, and control tower exception management across both asset-heavy and retail environments. Fun fact, Ian's popular Excel course is getting a full AI revamp, and you'll hear more about that during today's session too. So without me taking a lot more time here, Ian, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Jigar, and good afternoon to everyone, or morning if you're in the West Coast. When Supply Chain Canada suggested the title of today's talk, Hype versus Reality, I really like that. Because in my opinion, there are just way too many people preaching about the benefits of AI, selling it to corporations and whatnot, but too little people explaining how it actually works. So that's what I'm going to do in this, well, hopefully less than an hour. Demystify it. I'll show you what really works by showing you what I'm doing with AI, right? And we're going to tackle some of the biggest misconceptions and hype about AI. So here's what we're going to talk about. 3 big sections. Number 1, I start with the benefits of AI in supply chain management through 3 use cases. And they are a bit highfalutin, they're a bit complex, but I want to show you what's possible. I want you to dream, because these are like way up there with what you can do with AI, all right? And then after that, we will talk about hype versus reality. And then using that same line of thinking with my own hype versus reality, I will show you 4 of my own use cases. And of course, they're all reality because I'm doing it. I'm working it. I'm making magic with AI, and I'm boosting productivity and saving, saving money for my organizations. So let's start with section 1, the benefits of AI in supply chain management, with this statement. Artificial intelligence is transforming supply chain management by enabling real-time visibility, predictive insights, and smarter decision-making across the entire value chain. Let's look at 3 examples using those three phrases that I've highlighted, starting with real-time visibility. How can AI help with that? Here's a potential use case. AI-powered in-transit visibility and ETA control towers. Okay, so brief description of that is a control tower that ingests live carrier signal. So for example, for rail GPS pings, ocean milestones, EDI, TMS ERP statuses, and external data. So like weather, congestion, traffic, all that to predict estimated time of arrivals, ETAs, flag at-risk shipments, and auto-trigger actions, giving planners and logistics real-time end-to-end visibility with fewer manual checks. It goes without saying, that is the dream of any logistics company, to have real-time information and the ability to make fast decisions. Okay. Now, I won't belabor how this works, but I did put it in some easy to understand tidbits over here. So it's a system that uses AI to help pull the real-time data from GPS, carrier updates, etc. An AI model to forecast ETAs, spot risks, a dashboard perhaps to highlight the red flags, show the shipments that are at risk, and give clear next steps. All that in an automated action that sends alerts, open tickets, suggests reroutes. And of course, because it's AI, it should be able to learn and improve. So update plans, retrain models based on what's actually happened. Okay, so that's use case number 1. Think about how something like this might be useful for you. What about predictive insights? Let's look at this potential use case. AI-powered predictive demand and inventory risk early warning. Okay, so description: AI analyzes orders, seasonality, external market signals, and logistics constraints to predict demand surges, slowdowns, and inventory risks weeks ahead. So planners can adjust production, reposition stock, and align sourcing before issues hit service levels or working capital. Okay, and briefly how that might work, you would pull history and real-time inputs from your ERP systems, open orders, price indices, promo calendars, and external signals. And then with AI, predict demand and risk. So your AI model would forecast SKU by lane demand and flag stock out excess risks with confidence ranges. It will actually tell you how sure it is that this might become a problem. Showing what matters, perhaps on a Power BI or Tableau dashboard that highlights hotspots, Like the previous example, it's all automated. And of course, it also learns and improves, compares forecasts versus actuals, and then retrains to reduce bias and improve accuracy over time. Okay, that would be the second use case. What about smarter decision making, which, if you ask me, is really the be all and end all of all good supply chain management? Smarter decision making. So, what about an AI guided decision cockpit for S&OP and logistics trade offs? Funny enough, the company I work for, we're actually doing something like this right now. So, description, it's AI consolidates live operational data and ranks the best next moves, like production shifts, inventory reallocation, or mode changes. So, clear trade-offs for on time and full, cost to serve, and risk, so leaders can decide faster with confidence. Right? It's a give and take analysis. Should we adjust with logistics, or should we adjust with production? It's usually a very difficult system, and requires a lot of brain power. So why not use AI to speed that up? And like I said, we're actually building something like that right now. So you would pull live data, demand, supply, inventory. AI would then generate scenarios, a lot of them, hopefully, and then score the trade-offs. Rate each option on OTIF, margin, working capital, and carbon with short explanations. And of course, because it's AI, it breaks the barrier of predictive analytics and goes into prescriptive analytics. So it presents a ranked list of recommendations. It's prescribing what you should do next. And then, of course, if there's automation involved, you can close the loop. It actually makes a decision for you. So it applies the chosen plan to your ERP system, tracks results, and learns for the next time. Now, some of you might be thinking, are any of those use cases easy to do? Okay, and I'll be honest with you, not really. Okay, not really. I like I said earlier, I present these to you as so that you can dream, because AI can do these things, but it's way up there in terms of the prerequisites to build this. So you need to have a very mature data architecture. You have to have good data quality, and of course skills, and an AI-friendly corporate culture to embrace something as radical as these. However, there are lots of productivity boosting and cost saving activities that are easy to create once you understand what is hype and what is reality. Let's use that to segue into our next section, hype versus reality. We're going to cut through the buzz and see what AI really delivers. Hype. AI is plug and play. It's a complete turnkey solution. How many times have you heard that, right? Well, the reality is effective implementation of AI requires clean data, underscored because it's so important. It needs clean data, training, and deep domain expertise. What do I mean by deep domain expertise? I mean, AI is not a supply chain professional. It can pretend to be one, right? It can research what supply professionals do, but it'll never outsmart you, who are actually the ones speaking to your vendors, managing your contracts, and are on the shop floor. So knowing that, okay, for AI to be, successful, well, you have to feed it that information from your domain expertise, and again, underscored, clean data. I can go for hours speaking about how to clean your data and to set it up for AI, but for now, let's just say that is the number one prerequisite, and it's a hurdle that most organizations can't even get over. They want their shiny new AI products, but don't want to spend any effort on cleaning their data. So that's the reality of AI everywhere right now. Clean data first, and then training and then deep domain expertise before you can reap the benefits of AI. What about this hype? AI leads to total automation of decision making. Well, not really, because human oversight is still essential for managing disruptions, ethical decisions, and strategic pivots. Okay, for obvious reasons, right? So that's a good thing. All right, people are still always are going to be part of the loop. AI can solve any supply chain problem. All right. The data analysts would like to believe that. All right. And then data scientists and data engineers have the energy to build models that can go as detailed as possible and even simulate human decision making and context and all. But the reality is, AI excels when you have a structured data environment, okay, with high quality data. I should have underscored that because that's mostly missing in today's world. But in chaotic or low data context, it struggles. It really struggles, okay? For example, a lot of us in supply chain are maybe thinking about implementing a supplier relationship management program, an SRM program, okay, to help better, manage the relationships with our key suppliers. Well, my first question is, do you even track data relevant to that? Or is it all just, in your head or, maybe suggested KPI sheets, but you're not really tracking the relationship? Can you even quantify that sort of thing? Because you need to. If you want AI to help, you have to have that structured data environment. You have to feed it real structured tabular data so that it can help you make decisions. Okay. One of my favorite hypes, instant ROI. AI will deliver instant ROI. Just pay the license and boom, cost savings. All right. No, ROI takes time. Okay, and it depends on continuous refinement and integration with legacy systems. All right, let's qualify that. All right, continuous refinement means that AI requires training, not just training of the people, but you need to train the AI to think like a supply chain professional, to make decisions that are consistent with how you would make decisions. That takes time, hundreds of iterations. Okay, you just can't make a model with a few prompts. It doesn't work that way. Okay, it's testing and testing, putting guardrails and constraints, and then integration with legacy systems. Well, how did you operate before AI? Okay, how did you affect change? All right, through your ERP system, maybe, or you have maybe a complex system of Excel files. Well, if AI isn't part of that, and you don't have a roadmap to make AI interact with your ERP systems or your Excel files, then all it's going to do is just give you advice. It won't really do anything. So that's really important. ROI will only come when you've fully integrated AI into your supply chain systems, not just watching over you, spitting out, nice advice. Okay, and it takes time to do that. AI understands everything you say. These large language models is just really good at understanding language and any supply chain related requests you might make. Well, the reality is AI can, very often it does, misinterpret vague prompts, especially without clear context. Precision matters, okay? The reality of this is, yeah, it's easy to speak to AI. We do it with our phones, right? If maybe you're doing it every day with ChatGPT. I have Microsoft Copilot installed in my iPhone, and I talk to it almost every day. I ask it questions. I ask it to analyze things. But if you don't know the art of prompt engineering, you're not going to get very far. In fact, you might even get frustrated that it's not getting you, it's not understanding you. All right. Just in the same way, people learn different languages. Okay. Speaking to AI is like that. There are rules, there are syntaxes. And if you're just talking to it like like how you would with your best friend or a person, you'll get something. But if you learn how AI understands language and you learn the art of prompt engineering, you get way more. And until you learn these techniques, it will remain just as a simple advice giving engine and not really something that can do work for you. So yes, AI can understand language, but not everything you say unless you learn the art of prompt engineering. And finally, perhaps the biggest hype of all, and the only guy that isn't smiling here, AI is coming for your jobs. AI is going to put you out of work. I don't think so. Nah. So see, AI is great at drafting, summarizing, automating, and even analysis, but it lacks judgment, prioritization, the ability to handle ambiguity, and the nuances of human relationships. All right. And maybe some of you might say, oh, that's just a matter of time before this is going to happen. It's not in the roadmap at all for AI to do any of this. Okay. In fact, a real data professional with decades of experience told me the thing about AI is it's very good at predicting what you want to hear, not necessarily what you need. And that's why a lot of people think, wow, AI is great, because that's what I was thinking, right? The confirmation bias. AI is very good at that, okay? Predicting what you want to hear. But can it actually make real, life impacting judgment? Can it prioritize work, right? Not really. And also not anytime soon, maybe not even ever, okay? So AI isn't coming for your jobs, but you know who is? People who know how to use AI. They're the ones coming for your jobs. And that's also a reality, right? Okay. Speaking of reality, my third section here, Ian's use cases. I'm going to show you what's real, what's practical, and things you can do right now, because I'm doing them right now. Okay. And I'm not using any fancy AI here. I'm just using Microsoft Copilot. Now, granted, some of the things you're going to see is on the corporate version of Microsoft Copilot, not the free version. Okay, you can still do a lot with the free version, the very familiar chat interface. But for the magic tricks I'm able to do with AI, I'm actually using Copilot Enterprise. Right? It's the paid premium license, they call it. Right? And I will explain to you all these 4 use cases using my own hype versus reality line of thinking. All right, let's start with this. The biggest reasons why people are hesitant to use Gen AI are as follows. Okay, and then on screen you see like privacy and data security concerns. Maybe some of you have already a prepared question for me about that. Hallucinations, bias and fairness, lack of understanding, job replacement fears, over-reliance and complacency, and then ethical and existential concerns. But for me, the biggest one here is this: hallucinations and misinformation. AI hallucinates. What is that? Okay. So in Gen AI speak, hallucination is when AI generates false or misleading information while sounding confident about it. It will lie to your face, and until you can correct it, right, it will not change. It's a yeah, that's a fact. And then when you do correct it and present facts, contrary to what it's saying, then it's oh, you're totally right. Thanks for pointing that out. You know what I'm talking about. It's over patronizing, and it makes stuff up all the time. And I do mean it, all the time. So how can we trust AI if it continuously makes stuff up? I'll show you something. That's because AI was given creativity, all right? And it's not a flaw of AI. In fact, it's by design. AI is supposed to make stuff up, all right? Coming from the CEO of Microsoft AI, Mustafa Suleyman, AI hallucinations are not just a flaw, but also a feature. We don't want AI to just repeat what it's seen. We want it to be able to generate new ideas, to be creative. That's part of the reason hallucination happens. It's a side effect of that creativity, all right? If I were to summarize that, we don't want another Google search, okay? Because you take away that creativity from AI, the ability to create something new, it's no different from what Google was decades ago, right? But there's a problem, because AI does make up stuff. That creativity is useful for creative endeavors or exploratory settings like brainstorming, writing, or design. But that's very problematic in factual or safety critical context. That's me. Okay. So my first hype versus reality question to myself: is there a way to use the amazing power of AI but take away their creativity? Because I just want the facts. And you know what? Yes, it's existed for quite some time already. There is a way to prevent AI from lying to you. There is a way to force it to give you only the facts. All right. In Microsoft Copilot, which is what most Canadian corporations use. I'm not going to dive into ChatGPT, but the enterprise version of Copilot. there's two features called Copilot Analyst and Copilot Researcher. Okay, so think of Copilot Analyst as a math or engineering student. You give it a problem, or a numerical problem, and it will only answer if there's a numerical path to it. If there's a provable path from X to Y, and it will show you its solution, it will show you its method for calculations. And if there is no mathematical path, it will actually say data insufficient, all right? There is no way to answer your question. It will not be over patronizing and make stuff up. It will only answer if there is mathematical solution to your problem. Copilot Researcher, think of it as like this. AI with its creativity and its brain power, think of it as like Leonardo da Vinci. It's highly creative and can invent stuff. You take away that creativity, what do you have? You have a journalist, right? You have a researcher, a PhD level researcher, someone who is not supposed to put bias, right? It just presents the facts. And one of my use cases uses that extensively, Copilot Researcher, because I want to go out in the web, get the best practices in supply chain, and even what's recommended by professional bodies like Supply Chain Canada, CIPS, ISM, but not make up stuff. I want actual facts with sources and citations, all that. That's what Copilot Researcher does. Okay, so in Copilot, you actually find that on the left side, right? You see researcher and analyst. Okay, and then that's how you know you have the right license and you have AI that does not hallucinate. So really, no hallucinations? Let's put that to the test. So what I did is I uploaded spend data. Okay, and I aggregated it by supplier from 2022 to present. That's a massive and very complex data set. Well, actually not super massive because it's only 200,000 rows, but I could easily scale up. But for my test, I upload this 13 megabyte Excel file to AI, and I upload it in two areas. Number one, Copilot Chat, the free stuff. And I also upload it to Copilot Analyst. Okay, some people call it Analyst Agent, but yeah. Now what I did, because I'm an analyst myself, I performed my own analysis independently without using AI, just using advanced Excel formulas, pivot tables, and advanced forecasting methods, because I know this stuff already. And then I devised a series of tests, like from that data set, can it do simple filtering, simple aggregation, ranking my top 20, like give me the top 20 suppliers. Can it do two-level aggregation? Give me the top 10 categories by spend in 2023, so also filtering by year. Can it do non-normalized table layout and do an average calculation? Non-normalized table layout is usually what finance uses, where you have your months in columns. It's very common. You're probably using that format too. Can it make sense of that? Okay. Can it do linear regression? Which category has the steepest rate of increase over the months of from 2022 to 2025? Getting harder, can it do triple exponential smoothing, the Halt-Winters method, with seasonality every 12 months? Can it actually forecast knowing that the data isn't linear? It may go up and down for the seasons. Very difficult to do, okay? If you don't know the shortcuts in the math. And finally, can it do variability? Okay, can it, like for example, find the category within the professional services category with the most variability in monthly spend, then see if there are any statistical outliers. Okay, then exclude categories whose monthly spend is mostly zero. I try that in Copilot Chat, okay, the free one, and it failed every single one. Okay, because I know what the correct answer is. It failed, and it failed in a very scary way. It lied. It presented to me, here are your top 20 vendors. They're not my top 20 suppliers, all right? It could not do filtering. It made a false linear regression answer. It literally failed every single test, okay? And I'm not surprised, because that's Copilot being creative here. It's made up stuff. But I put the same test through Copilot Analyst. Every single one, it got the exact right answer, okay? And I know that, again, because I did this myself. Okay, but the only difference is it did it very, very fast. When it took me hours to figure it out on my own, it did it exactly right. So I put it through the ringer, a real use case, price escalation analysis, right? Wouldn't you love to do that, right? Figure out the stuff, the materials and goods and the services you're procuring over the years, if any of them are creeping up in price, right? Sometimes it's so subtle you'll never notice it if you just look at your data sets, or even if you try to visualize this. But can AI find it? Okay, and this is perfect use case because the data set here is massive, multiple years, all the way down to the PO line level item. Find escalation and then do something about it. Okay, so I upload all that data. This one's way bigger, the Copilot Analyst. And by the way, I'm also checking this because I built my own Power BI dashboard with all the complex math, just to check if I can repeat this again for next month with AI. Okay, so here's what Analyst did. First, it studied my file using Python. Okay, and it shows me. And then it says here, the file material pricing raw data contains one sheet with detailed columns related to material purchases like document date, purchase document, and quantities. So, okay, that's an overview. All right. It even gave me a breakdown of what it sees. There's the sheet. Here are the columns. Okay. And it even gave me a sample data preview. Would you like to perform any specific analysis or generate a report or visualization from this data? And I say, I want to perform an analysis to look for price escalation. I give it my goal. Okay. To facilitate this, create two groupings from the data. The first group is called price groups. All right. So using the net value, group them into less than 250, 250 to 500. So it's, grouping of prices, of values. I'm binning the data. The second group is usage. Using document date and material, count the number of times a material or service was ordered, meaning that if there's a record for it. So we want to not know if we're buying expensive or cheap stuff. We also want to know how often we're ordering, okay? Because both of that is needed to check for price escalation, okay? And then using data science, it does that. It actually manipulates my spreadsheet and shows me the exact procedure of how it's doing it. I can audit its method, okay? It even explains it in plain English. It organizes price groups, clarifying the task, exploring groupings for output, and finalizing the output. And then it gives me Python code. And then it analyzes usage categories, compiling final groupings, presenting final groupings. And then it gives me a very big document that shows, here's what I've done. Okay, so number of records for the price groups that I've recommended. Okay, and then for usage groups, it did the same thing. Now it asks, would you like to visualize these groupings? Said yes, visualize the data, and it does that within seconds. It makes its own Power BI dashboard for me. So distribution by price group, distribution by usage group. Okay, all right. We haven't answered the question yet, price escalation, but I'm getting a good picture of what my spend now looks like. All right. So now I followed up. The next thing I want you to do is remove statistical outliers within each price group. That's difficult to do if you don't know the math. Okay. So it does that. Okay, it shows here the statistical method, the IQR, interquartile range method. So it's using statistics to remove outliers. It even shows me sample calculations for that. Okay, there we go. Records remaining after the noisy outliers have been removed. Now I've got a clean data set. Okay, and it even shows me a sample. Now I want you to perform price escalation analysis. Is there a combination of price group and usage where the monthly average price using that value is rising above the rate of inflation? This is where the rubber hits the road. This is where we're getting real value. I'm finding out now if there are suppliers who are, unfairly increasing their prices. Maybe it goes against the contract. Maybe they're allowed to do that, but higher than the rate of inflation. Okay, so it does that. It's a very long process, but it shows me step by step. And it shows me from each of the price groups and usage groups, the average monthly increase. Then something sticks out. Look at this very low value items. Average monthly increase is 28.5. I'm talking about $5 items, right? Less than $20 widgets, okay? It even gives me an interpretation of that, okay? And then finally, now that I know it knows which price group and usage, and of course the underlying data, the suppliers associated with that, I finally ask it, give me the top 20 suppliers associated with the highest price escalation, including a sample for each of these vendors, 3 records of what we are buying from them. Why do I need that? Because this is where the theoretical becomes real. I'm gonna call these vendors. Or I'm gonna, no, not me. I'm gonna ask the category managers and their teams, call them, asking them, what's up? Why are your rates increasing so much, right? And it gives me a list, which I then pass on to the category managers, and then of course they do something about that, right? And the data is so massive that without AI, I would have still done it. I mean, in fact, I did do it for the past in the Power BI dashboard, but AI did it in 15 minutes. It did a multi-year, year-to-date price escalation analysis, very complex, in 15 minutes, and the output is a list of people to call. That's real. That's cost saving. Okay. Second use case. AI is great for answering questions and doing one-off analysis. We know that, right? But can it do actual repeatable work, like helping me fill out an Excel file for reporting purposes on a regular basis? Okay, I should have said this in the beginning. I'm part of Nova Chemical's Center of Excellence, and reporting is one of my main tasks. So I'm always in data sets, and I'd like AI to actually do my work for me. So can AI do automated work that's more than just simple prompt and answer? The answer is yes. Okay, let me show you how I applied that. Decades ago, okay, my company did this, produced this thing called a supplier brief. All right, and maybe you know what that term is. A supplier brief is, it's meant to be a 1 or 2 pager printout that you would give to a negotiating team or a category managing team to prepare them for a face-to-face meeting. Okay, so this is a screenshot of an old one. You can even see the date here, March 2010. That's how long ago it was done. And you would get information like company background, who their competitors are, our relationship owners, and then a snapshot of our current and historical spend. Are they critical? You see stock performance, market review, right? Strategy, and maybe some even mention in the news, right, about this. Now, back then, 2010, of course, there was no AI. So to produce this, there was a team of people that would, on an ad hoc basis, meaning there's a negotiating team would say, hey, I need a supplier brief on these guys. Take them a few days to do the Googling and then come up with this, right? I remember in my old company, we used to do this also. And it was called supplier brief. And the turnaround time was around 3 to 5 days to produce a single printout, because we'd had a market intel team, about 7 to 8 people that would do the research. And again, case-to-case basis, you cannot do this for everyone because it's a lot of work. Well, guess what? We've been asked in my company to refresh this. Okay, now we want to call it Supplier 360. Okay, pretty much the same information. Like over here, you see this vendor over here, a little bit of company background, where their corporate global headquarters is, who's their CEO, do they have a North American entity, what's their website address, do they have any mention in local or Canadian news and global news? And if there are, does it concern my company, right? And then, of course, we have quick spend facts, so historical and current spend, and we even have an interactive subcategory in Spend Explorer to see if they have an outline agreement. Do we have any deliveries we're still waiting for these guys, or and what's the subcategories we buy most from them? Again, a one-pager that'll help arm a negotiating team with what they need to know to face their the people who are across the negotiation table, maybe even the CEO. Again, like it was in 2010, it's easy to do this for 1 or 2 suppliers, but try doing this for 2,000 suppliers. All right, impossible. All right, the spend part, yeah, you can do that if you're connected to your internal spend reporting, maybe your ERP system. But how are you going to do it for, let's say, this news section, the local and global news? It's got to be current, right? Well, in this case, I say last 6 months. You can't do that for 1,000, let alone 2,000 vendors. So how did I do this with AI? Using the humble Copilot chat. All right, I upload a blank spreadsheet. Okay, it's got nothing but supplier names, just in one column, just the names of the suppliers. And then my prompt is, on the attached spreadsheet, fill in the blanks. Fill in the blank columns that pertain to information about suppliers. company background, global headquarters, North American entity, if applicable, current CEO, North American entity CEO, mentions in local and global news in the past 6 months, especially if it involves Nova Chemicals, and then commodity market indices information, if applicable, etc. And then I put the word etc. because it'll get the gist. It will see all the blank columns, and I did ask it fill in the blank columns. Within minutes, I get back my spreadsheet. All the information is there, including URLs for the company websites, and if they do appear in the news in the last 6 months, the article would be there with a clickable URL, and then that's all pointed to a Power BI report. And then we do this every week. So what have I done with the company? Well, I've enabled smart negotiation. For category management. We all know that he who is armed with the most information has a leg up at negotiations or contract renewals or supplier relationship management. This is what it does. This dashboard is a one-stop shop where I want to know what we're buying from these guys, and is there an alternative? They would go to the dashboard and get the latest supplier-centric news thanks to AI. And we're doing it for thousands of suppliers, not one or two on an ad hoc basis. Next use case. What about contracts? All right, a lot of SCM work involves maintaining contracts. Can AI actually read and interpret contracts and even come up with recommendations that have real life impact? Okay, in other words, contextual analysis of contracts in PDF formats with the perspective of a supply chain professional and or a lawyer. Okay, yeah, it can do that using the functionalities of Copilot notebooks and Copilot agents. Now I'll show you something that I'm currently building. I'm not even done with it yet, but I'll show you how it works. So very recently, I've been tasked to help out with an integration in activities. So my company is going to go through a merger, right? And it's already it's out there. This is not confidential, so it's publicly announced that my company is going to change, right? And with that, okay, our suppliers, some of them are going to be impacted. So the legal and supply chain department has asked me, of our 5,500 contracts, okay, that we know of, right? Can you identify any of them that have language of change of control? Because we're going to change entity, right? There's going to be a merger. There's going to be a company restructuring, all right? So a Copilot notebook works like this. I'm carving out a part of AI for a specific use. So not general AI Copilot, but now a change of control Copilot, and then I give it a body of knowledge. So I just blurred it out here, but I upload the contracts. I don't read them. I just upload the PDFs. Okay, and then I give it instructions. All right, and let me show you what the instructions are. Go through the PDFs and the references. They are contracts. Look for any clauses or provisions about change of control. The output is an Excel spreadsheet that contains 5 columns in this specific order: file name, change of control clauses or provisions, the page number where you find it, if there's penalties or consequences, the page number where you find that. Okay, and then I make it specific, like if you don't find anything, just put not found or NA. And then from our legal department, who gave me the advice, this is how you would know that there is change of control clauses. So they gave me keywords or phrases like change of control, some form of acquires control of, the word 50%, majority ownership, takeover, acquisition, reorganization. So these are clues. And then in my instructions, I said, this is just a guide and not meant to be exhaustive, which is important, okay? Because sometimes AI takes us literally. I don't want it to limit itself to these keywords. I just want to use it and contextually expand that, okay? Then I say, the sections where you might find change of control are in the contract, mergers and acquisitions, subsidiaries, affiliates, term and termination, etc., etc. The output in less than 2 minutes, okay, is an Excel spreadsheet. I can't show you the contents, but it gives me the file name, change of control clause, page number, penalties or consequences, penalty page number. How am I protecting my company with a spreadsheet like this? Well, before the integration happens, before the merger happens, we're going to blast this out. We are going to go to our suppliers on this list and tell them, get ready. There's going to be a change of control. And how do we mitigate? How do we make sure the supply is seamless? How do we avoid these penalties? How do we avoid termination of contract? That's real dollar impacting work that AI just helped me with. Okay, what was the alternative? Well, the alternative is people flipping through PDFs. 5,000 of them. No way in hell I'm going to do that. I don't want to, right? So let's have AI do that for us. Okay, and it did it successfully. Okay, I'm refining it a little bit more. Like I said, it's still work in progress, but the results are promising. It is super fast, and it understands our contracts. The refinement I'm doing it is I'm teaching it more of the legal language, and I want to extract a few more things like expiry dates, our obligations, or notifications when a change of control happens. So this is AI that's been carved out of Copilot and now is just an expert on this specific purpose and thinks like a supply chain professional or a lawyer. Finally, this is a fun one. My last use case before we open the Q&A. Can AI automate complex processes, as in go outside of the AI environment, go outside of Copilot and directly interact with SAP websites, Excel files, do my work for me? The answer to that one is yes, but indirectly. Okay, what do you mean indirectly? Let me show you. Here's a real thing that's happening to us right now. There will be a potential drastic increase in the number of orders in response to tariffs, right? And just to make it quick, it takes an individual approximately 20 minutes to complete an order for something we buy. All right, because he has to get all the U.S. Customs and Border Control information correct, has to be up to date, like as of the last minute or so, and then fill out this complex Excel spreadsheet form with formulas, all that, drag it down here. It takes about 20 minutes. Problem is, if tariffs are implemented on certain class of products we sell, then the amount of orders are expected to reach 300 per week, or 1 every 15 minutes. See the problem here? Our 1 order every 15 minutes, but manually it takes 20 minutes to complete. So if this is not automated, we're going to fall behind. There are going to be orders that are going to be delayed and with real implication, right? That's money out on the table. So how does AI help me with this? Well, I use the program, not Copilot, but Power Automate. Which, by the way, we have a course upcoming if anyone's interested. Anyway, Power Automate, which is embedded with Copilot. Okay. So instead of learning, how to code in Power Automate, I just ask it, what are the actions I can take to get text from 2 different screen locations? And it will tell me what to do. It says, okay, here are the actions you need. Either get OCR text or get text from UI element, which I find over here in the list of actions, and I just drag and drop. And by smartly asking Copilot what I want to do with this, I'm creating now my automated program. So Copilot isn't exactly the one that's going to interact with SAP and the websites. It's going to be Power Automate, but the code or the procedure was built by Copilot, by just me prompting it, okay? And let me show you exactly how that works.
Once we are in the business object report, we run this report that we have. And once the query is done, we need to change here to Excel.
This is the manual process.
We need to delivery and order need to be converted to numbers. We take the whole report and copy it in this outbound FTZ. And usually when we have new entries, everything from AA to the last one, we have those are formulas, so it needs to be copied. Yeah, this one is I have a separate one which will pull manually. These are manual as well.
It's painful.
These are coming from SAP. We need to use the Exchange.
3 days later.
Final email will look something like this. This is a snapshot from the email. We use the.
He's still going.
We have in this one. If the tariffs are implemented, we'll be doing 300 of this weekly, and we copy it from here and add it in the final email.
Any questions? that that brings us to the Q&A portion of my presentation. I hope you learned a lot, saw what I can do with AI. And again, these are not difficult, all right? As long as you understand what is possible, what's not, right? And it uses just one AI, just the Microsoft Copilot, which most of you already have. So let's take your questions.
Thank you
Oh,
so much,
Jigar.
Ian,
Yeah,
for those
okay.
insightful and practical examples. Kudos to you for being able to share those valuable insights within this short time that you had. I'm sure everyone has a lot of interesting questions, and we have already started to receive a good bunch of those. Just a quick reminder, please continue sending those questions through the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. We'll try to get through those as many as possible today. Starting off, the first one that we received from Alan, which is about the recent news of Accenture laying off thousands of employees due to
Due to
AI.
AI.
11,000 of those have been laid off, and it's called restructuring and
Mhm.
AI automation and all that. But your insights on that, Ian. And
Yeah,
I think there is another follow-up to that from Ray
yeah.
saying even Salesforce,
Salesforce, yeah.
they have laid off employees as well. So what could be the potential reason? How can we prepare ourselves the best to be on the side where we are able to leverage AI and be an asset to the company?
Okay, well, you're helping me answer that question. Well, first of all, unfortunately, it's going to happen more and more often. All right, it's not just Accenture and Salesforce. It will happen, and it's going to hit close to home. All right, I've personally experienced that in oil and gas, and it's with the dawn of RPA, and I kind of dodged the AI thing. But I'll tell you how I dodged it. Okay, you got to upskill yourself. Remember what I said earlier about AI is not coming for your job. It's people who know AI that's coming for your job. Remember that, because I truly believe there's no such thing as job security. But if you want to insulate yourself with the whole AI wave, and some of these companies are doing it for good reasons, some of them are just jumping on the bandwagon. They think that AI is great without understanding the hype, and there have been companies that have done this the wrong way. They just like the whole Doge approach, just lay off everyone, then realize, oh, you actually need them because AI can't really do their job, then you rehire them. But with AI, if you upskill, if you learn this stuff, if you actually can make your own, even simple use cases and prove that you can use AI to boost your own productivity or even generate savings, that's the way to counter this. But there's no stopping AI. Of all of the new waves of technology, blockchain, RPA, the most world changing is AI, and it's not slowing down. If anything, it's moving so fast that you pretty much have to learn almost on a weekly basis what are the updates, because you have to stay on top of it. That's my advice.
Yeah. And just to add to that, here at Supply Chain Canada, we try to incorporate your feedbacks on what you need most at your workplace and try to bring in webinars and workshops just like this one that helps you get that edge over others and to excel in your workplace. So we would have a feedback form coming your way after this webinar, and we would highly appreciate if you can share your insights on what you would like to see. Because it's your association, so your feedback matters the most. Moving on to the next one. This one's coming from Mohammad Basit Khan. He's sharing that he's a seasoned professional and currently doing MBA with thesis and sustainable logistic practices.
Cool.
And he is frequent user of ChatGPT and Gemini for his professional analysis and critical decision making. What he feels like is that AI is missing emotional and ethical intellectual thinking. That's
Absolutely.
where he thinks human factors comes in and has a major catalyst. Would you like to share your inputs on that, Ian?
You're right, Mohammed. It does lack that anything that relates to human interaction, human relationships, ethical concerns. It's not trained very well on that. Again, it's very good at saying what it thinks you might like to hear, but when it comes to decision making, my advice is don't rely on it. The human judgment is still absolutely needed. Perfect. And I feel good about that. That you still need the humans.
Nice. Thank you. Um,
I see a good one here from Desiree. Okay, and I'm sure
yes.
a lot of you are
Yeah.
thinking about this. How does AI deal with confidential data? All right, one of the earliest concerns about AI, it's one of the barriers actually to using it. Well, good news. All right, we've progressed a lot from the early days of ChatGPT. If you are on a corporate license, whether it's ChatGPT Enterprise or Copilot or Gemini, don't worry, it's all going to be on-prem. You can put input there, it will use the web, but none of your data goes out. All right. At my own company, we've been told as long as you're using the corporate AI and we're not going out into ChatGPT, we're using Copilot, feel free to put confidential information. You can't really work if you don't, right? So we're protected. We're because we know that information goes in, but it never goes out back to the web. It's not used to train AI elsewhere. That's what the license is for. That's what you're paying, so that you protect your data. And there's tons of white papers on that. So it's not anymore a concern. It is if you're circumventing IT policy and using your own AI outside of what's approved, right? Then that's an issue.
Definitely. Ian, I would like to just combine a few questions here,
Yeah,
which are
yeah.
similar. So Dan Christie is asking, for supplier briefs, how do we ensure Copilot does not hallucinate? And then Jeff is asking around prompt engineering on how,
Mm.
how do prompts work similarly in platforms, in different platforms like Gemini, Copilot, ChatGPT. Any recommendations for that?
Yeah. Okay. So how do we prevent AI from hallucinating? One, you can use Researcher because Researcher does not hallucinate. Or in my case, I actually just use chat. I forced AI to give me the URL. So if it's going to state something like a news article, it better give me the address of that article. Okay. So remember the thing about training AI? I iterated this many, many times till it came to a point that, yeah, it's consistently giving me correct articles because I take a random sample, I click on the links, and that is the exact words. So at that point, I trust it. And AI the way it works is when you interact that way, you're correcting it, you're telling it that no, it's got to be factual, you have to provide the URL. It remembers that. So when you use it again, it knows, okay, next time I'm not supposed to make it up. Here's a URL. That's how I'm making sure that the news is correct. Okay.
And then just to add to it, is there a specific AI that you use? John is asking around a specific AI tool that can be used for supply chain / logistics, or is it just Copilot, ChatGPT, the regular ones that we have out there?
There are supply chain centric AIs, and they're usually the products of the consulting companies. So McKinsey has one, Hackett has one. There are many. Okay. But I believe in the power of what you already have. I always preach that on LinkedIn. And Copilot is out there. Almost everyone has it. Before going to a shiny brand new tool that you have to pay an arm and a leg for, or not everyone has access to it, see first what you can do with Copilot. Because again, Copilot can read your files. They can read your emails, your team meetings. So it has that context that other third-party AIs will never have, because you're never going to give your email interactions, your team meeting summaries to a third party, right? But if you're on, let's say, Copilot takes that into consideration. So when you're asking it for recommendations, it knows that your coworker has already solved this problem, or combining that information with your question, it can synthesize something new. So again, try first. You stick with the power of what you already have before looking out. But to answer your question, yes, there are.
Now, that was from the tool perspective of it. As a
Yeah.
user, as a human perspective, one question that we have received is around generalist versus specialist.
Yeah.
Where are you inclined, Ian, on this strategy of being a generalist in the space of AI, where everyone knows how to do more with
Yeah.
leveraging AI, or should they be just start focusing on something and have deep knowledge?
Well, I think of myself as a specialist because I'm using AI just for supply chain. And if that's what you're using AI to improve the supply chain organization and processes and cost savings, you are by definition a specialist, right? I started out with generalist skills by just exploring what AI can do for my own personal usage, but later on I found I'm always doing it for work stuff, and that makes me a specialist. So think of yourselves as you're focusing on supply chain work, you're becoming an AI specialist for supply chain.
And then I know we are just running out of time, but a lot of
Yeah.
questions have come here asking, is SCMA going to be offering courses, or is there going to be more webinars coming around this topic? So that, Ian, would you like to talk about your workshop that is upcoming in December? Real quick.
Yep. We always do offer these courses. So I've got 2 coming up in 2025. So in November, I'm doing Excel with Copilot. So I'm going to I've completely revamped this course. So I've been teaching this for over 10 years now, the advanced, the beginner and the advanced Excel courses. And I've been slowly updating it. And now I have a big update because a lot of the things I used to teach, like advanced formula writing, you don't need anymore because Copilot's there. So that's the new one. If you want to do Excel the smart way with AI, that's the November course. In December, okay, this is data-driven narrative, AI-enhanced storytelling for supply chain professionals. I've also revamped this old data storytelling course because you can totally do it with AI. But this is actually my favorite course because you know how AI is not really great at human interaction, and it's not even good that good at storytelling. Okay, so this is a skill that is still very much human-centric. The art of influencing people through a data story or to make a dashboard that really hits home. AI can help. But this course tells you the little tips and tricks and best practices that if you know them, right, you're going to be getting approvals. You're going to be putting out reports that people get the first time. You're going to persuade a lot of people through the use of storytelling, data storytelling, which is the hottest data skill nowadays. Okay, there.
Ian,
Yeah.
I would like to just wrap this up real quick.
Wrap it up.
Because,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
So thank you, everyone. We are
yes.
at the end of our time here. We'll quickly wrap up our Q&A question there and send out answers to all your questions that we were not able to answer in this session through our post-email communication. So do look out for that. You will also be receiving recording and the slide deck that we went through today. So look out for that as well. And then there is going to be a survey sent out. So please feel free to fill that up as well. A huge thank you to Ian Gonzalez for sharing such actionable insights today, and all of you for joining and actively engaging in your questions. As a reminder, do feel free to connect with us on our social handles, connect with Ian on his social handle as well, and we'll keep you posted on what's upcoming at Supply Chain Canada West. Thank you for spending time with us this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.